Good morning, my friends. Daniel Miller here, and welcome you all to our gaming industry podcast. We are following all the hottest and the best news coming out of the industry from the publishers and developers. As you know, every day we look at everything that's come to us overnight, and then we just browse through it and select those which we consider to be of the greatest interest to everyone. So today, yet again, we are looking at the news for Friday the 27th of September of 2019, and these news are going to be also including Star Wars Jedi, Grand Theft Auto 3, Mario Kart Tour, Half-Life 2, Borderlands 3, Fallout 76, Fairy Tail, Galarian, and many other ones. So because we are always busy and we have so many news to get through, it's always the best to crack on straight away. So let me have a look. We were talking about Dying Light the other day, and we hear that Dying Light 2 will receive 4 years worth of DLC. So that's sounding very, very good and exciting. And that news is coming from Techland. So they will be supporting Dying Light 2 with DLC plans that span 4 years, as revealed in an interview with Prankster, and that's coming to us through PC Games Network. The developer has adopted a steadfast approach to supporting its projects before with its previous game Dying Light. Even though Techland is focusing on its sequel, lead designer Timon Smektala stated that a handful of his staff are working on additional stuff that will be happening in Dying Light. Again, Dying Light is hotly anticipated. There's a lot of anticipation about the game, and as you know, there are lots of followers still there from the original. Referring to the 10 DLC updates that Dying Light received, he explained that supporting a game like Dying Light for such a long time allows us to be slightly more crazy, slightly more creative with some things, and also to test some ideas and gameplay elements that we are overall not sure about. So such Dying Light 2 will be provided with an identical level of commitment from Techland. When asked whether DLC will be on the agenda for the next game, Smektala affirmed that the developer's plan is as follows. Dying Light 1 was supported for 4 years after its release, and the plan for the Dying Light 2 is exactly the same. We want this game to be supported after its release. We know that a lot of fans will be waiting for DLCs, updates, extra stuff they can get their hands on, and we promise to deliver them just that. Of course, Smetkala couldn't reveal too much about what's in the pipeline for obvious reasons, but we all can speculate for the time being. So the following was a standalone expansion for Dying Light that beefed up the original game, and it's possible that Dying Light 2 will receive something similar. So as obviously you know, Dying Light 2 will release in early 2020 on PlayStation 4, PC and Xbox One. Microsoft has no plans to port its first-party games to other platforms, and their strategy, and that is of Xbox, is to be entirely independent. So just to confirm, Microsoft will not be porting its exclusive first-party titles to other platforms in the future, and this is what is said in an interview with MCV. Gears 5 is the first game in its series to be released on PC, and once Xbox exclusive Ori and the Blind Forest will release for Nintendo Switch this Friday. In addition, Obsidian Entertainment, The Outer Worlds is coming to PlayStation 4 as well as Xbox One and PC. Well, I think we've heard from several people during the E3 that the all-time PlayStation, Xbox or PC exclusives are likely to be dying out. And we may have some PlayStation or Xbox exclusive content, but just in a very, very microscopic, minute format, because the future of the gaming is in cross-platform access. So evidently, if Xbox are to be allowing the games to be accessible to other platforms, they will charge an arm and a leg for that, and that will be the way forward, because you don't want to be lagging behind. If the games like Fortnite can get everyone in, then you can see that the number of gamers stepping in every day is just always exponentially increasing, and you don't want to be running Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order where half the people can't get in because they're on the wrong platform. It's just going to be a non-starter. Interesting to see what industry model they will deploy as well once importing games to PC or PlayStation 4. But I'm quite certain that they will find a way. And Microsoft General Manager of Games Marketing, Aaron Greenberg, said that these are the only exceptions to their independent publishing strategy. Going forward, all of our internal studios and the new studios we've added will be focused on making games for our platforms, and we have no plans to expand our exclusive first-party games to any other consoles. Regarding The Outer Worlds, he said that there was already a commitment to port it to other platforms from before, and that Microsoft will continue to honour that as part of its acquisition deal with developer Obsidian. Don't forget, The Outer Worlds has been in making for quite some time, and Obsidian were acquired quite recently, so that's probably connected to it. However, once those commitments are fully over, the next lot of video games from Xbox's first-party studios will release only on its platform, so you'll be always starting out on Xbox. Thinking about the next game from Obsidian, inXile and Ninja Theory, all the studios, just like our existing internal studios, whether it's 343 or 1010, they're going to be focused on making those games for our platforms, so we have no plans to be expanding any of those exclusive first-party titles to any other consoles. This is how he explained it. Ori and the Will of the Wisps is confirmed to arrive on Xbox One and PC, and Greenberg clarified why its prequel was ported to Switch. Ori is built by Moon Studios, which is an independent external studio. They came to us with a desire to bring the original Ori to the Switch, and we thought that made sense, so we're happy to work with them to enable them to bring that to Switch. Ori is also a very, very good game, but it's good to hear that Microsoft is keeping an open mind. Nintendo Switch Lite has sold almost 12 times as many units in Japan than in the UK, so you could see Nintendo Switch a very, very popular platform in Japan compared to what we have over here. Nintendo Switch Lite has had a much more successful first week in Japan when compared to the UK, as the console sold almost 12 times as many units in Japan than in the UK. And we're getting 2 reports from Game Industry Biz basically on this. In Japan, consumers have taken home an impressive 160,000 units of the new Switch, and sales of the original Nintendo Switch rose by 12,000 units to 64,000 sold during its little brother's first week compared to last week. But these numbers fall significantly short of Citibank's expectations. The financial subsidiary predicted that 300,000 units of Switch Lite would be flying off to the shelves, such as Nintendo stock has fallen to its lowest point in 8 months. In the UK, the Nintendo Switch Lite has sold approximately 13,500 units in its launch week. This is just a fraction of the sales reported in Japan. As after mentioned, those were considered to be disappointing. However, the Switch Lite is tailored for a casual gamer, and retailers interviewed by Games Industry Biz are not concerned with its stalling performance. Launch week really isn't the point of Switch Lite, one retail executive said. Switch Lite was always going to come into its own come Pokemon. It's ideal as a Christmas present, and we expect sales to ratchet up during November and December. Pre-orders for special Pokemon Switch Lite have been already strong. Another senior buyer explained, I'm planning on purchasing the Zacian and Zamazenta edition of Switch Lite. So basically that looks very, very exciting for some of the gamers. And there have been also some reports that Switch Lite is suffering from Joy-Con drift, and this hardware malfunction was a blight on its big brother, would cause the console to react as if the user has been moving the analog stick or D-pad, even if that's not been happening at all. So they're really working on that really as we speak, and good to hear that in Japan the console is so popular. Cataclysm is back in Anthem as players sound off to that there's nothing else to do. Well, they discontinued and then brought it back. Anthem's Cataclysm event has returned to the game, as players complained that Anthem simply does not have enough content to do without it, and we are getting this through Games Radar. The cataclysms are time-limited world events that cause physical manifestations to occur, extreme weather, incursions of dangerous hostile enemies, new mysteries to solve. And this one was the denouement of Act 1, Echoes of Reality, Anthem's first chunk of live service DLC, but it didn't come with some complications. The edition was delayed a few times, and then when it finally arrived, players encountered numerous technical problems. EA CEO Andrew Wilson said that BioWare would make Anthem something special and something great, but only last week it was announced that the team are scrapping its post-launch content plans in favour of addressing Anthem's core issues. I believe they're based on the game engine Frostbite that they used, and perhaps some of those issues are very, very hard to solve. When the Cataclysm event ended, players found that Anthem is a little bit empty without it, and after this, what is left for us to do? Some people said, back to free play and the same strongholds. I haven't seen anything to play yet, still on the story and in between playing other games. Really quite sad to see it going away. And that's obviously for people who are not doing Anthem alone, people who are sort of doing many games at the same time, similar to me. So BioWare quietly reinstated the limited time Cataclysm event as part of this week's reset, which brought back its arenas without leaderboards and the shard currency system. Initially, players thought to be an accident, but BioWare's global lead Jesse Anderson said that the hotfix did intend for Cataclysm to return. BioWare boss Casey Hudson recently stated that he would like Anthem to grow, evolve, and thrive for many years to come. And the revival of Cataclysm may be the very first step towards certainty for the sci-fi shooter. I think people have been a bit too impatient with Anthem. Anthem, I guess, was a game released too early, and BioWare experienced it a bit like Shot in the Dark, and the pressure must have been coming from Electronic Arts, because it was obvious to all of us after we played beta, VIP, demo, and everything else initially, that the game required a lot more work, and the content was not 100% there. And also in view of the fact that BioWare is well known for their immersive RPGs and not for multiplayer. This was the first major incursion into a big multiplayer, massive multiplayer online world, which in fact did not work as expected. Therefore, we probably have to allow anything between 18 months to 3 years for the game to be functioning properly. And we are getting a bit of content, but they're still struggling with the very basic technical problem, which is persisting in the game. And they simply can't be adding on new content if the very basics are not operating as they should. So I think the gamers and the industry reporters will need to be fully aware of the degree of investment that BioWare indeed did make in Anthem, and they will not want this game to fail. And just remain patient, play the game, wait for that new content, and then we are going to be having the map which was originally introduced once all the technical issues are done and dusted, which has not happened so far. Therefore we are still in for a lengthy wait, but I'm quite certain that they're not going to be pulling out resources away from Anthem, because this project was to be something quite extraordinary, amazing, and exclusively focused on the section of the community that wanted to be doing PvP and wanted to be doing the major team effort within that squad of 4. Hasn't really quite materialized so far, but I think I'm confident that in due course, similar to what we had right at the beginning, like with Destiny, maybe not even Destiny 1, if we look at Destiny 2, in fact, very good example, where you had a game released which was very much like a game in development, the year 1 edition, and then during the second year we've had so much extra content introduced that it just completely overtook. It became a completely different game, which was providing something for everyone, became fully immersive, and everyone just loved it, and people still keep grinding, sometimes even unnecessary loot, in order to keep abreast of all of that development that was coming our way through 3 seasons in the course of the last 12 months. So I think probably a good comparison, and I think Anthem is likely to be experiencing the same in the course of the second year, but they need to resolve the game engine problems. Without it, I think they're doomed to fail, because they will get many problems with the additional content arising and attacking the enjoyable gameplay, and this is something that we do not want to see. Right, the House of Dead remake is coming in 2020. And we hear that the game will be rebooted by Forever Entertainment in partnership with Sega, as reported by Grazkopolita. Forever Entertainment are a Polish publisher that's collaborated with Sega before, and it is developing remakes of Panzer Dragoon and Panzer Dragoon 2, 2 for the Nintendo Switch, and these games are slated to launch before the end of this year, so they must be really in full swing. Forever Entertainment has engaged in a new partnership with the Japanese publishing Goliath. It infers that progress is coming along quite well on the Panzer Dragoon series, and Sega likes basically what it sees so far. Grazkopolita has stated that the House of the Dead remake and the House of the Dead 2 remake will be true to the original game storylines. Expectedly, the reboots will receive a lick of paint and tweak gameplay to bring them into the 21st century. The very popular games, remember, on PC, as well as the Panzer Dragoon remakes. Megapixel Studio will develop these games, and Forever Entertainment will act as the project's co-producer and publisher. Forever Entertainment revealed that the first look at the remakes will arrive in the next few months, and the House of the Dead remake is targeting release window of 2020, according to the report. The platforms that these games will launch for is unknown, but given that Panzer Dragoon is set for Switch, it is likely that the House of the Dead will also be a Switch release. The House of the Dead series are rail shooters in which the protagonist must slay waves of zombified mutants before encountering a horrifying boss battle. This style of play will lend itself well to the portable Switch, and the console is collecting retro titles like they're going out of fashion. So we'll obviously keep an eye on all that is to follow from Forever Entertainment, but I'm very, very hopeful. Just want to tell you that the industry is in fact taking the position through which they will want to be digging up older games and not just remastering them, but actually remaking them in full. And that's very similar to what you had in through Hollywood studios, where you would be looking films like Star is Born. Just think about it, how many times A Star is Born was remade, and it's all to do with the title and with the number of people who would have watched the film previously and who would want to see how this film looks in a different format. So that is exactly what they're trying to do here. You are having a game that would have had very many followers and fans, and they will want to be experiencing it in a new, not remastered, but remade format, which is basically upgraded to the present day and age. So therefore you're retaining the old player game base, and then you are, of course, increasing it with your adverts, your marketing, and you are bringing in the new members of the community who are rediscovering the old game through the remake and indeed enjoying it in full. So that's the idea. It's basically retaining the old customers, bringing in the new ones, beefing up on the sales, beefing up on interest. It's just, it all. But I think it's the same model. It is becoming possible because certain sections of development have become cheaper with the new technology, whilst previously would have been considered far too expensive to start from scratch. And games like Final Fantasy and Resident Evil 2, for instance, have been received with huge critical acclaim and massive interest from the community. So you can see that definitely there is future for those kinds of projects, and I think they will have to carefully select what old games are to be remade in view of the interest and the expense. Frogwares and Focus Home Interactive dispute leads to Sherlock Holmes games being delisted from some digital stores. That's ridiculous. I really wanted to. I've got two of those titles on my list. What's happening? Frogwares games are being removed from digital distribution platforms due to a dispute with publisher Focus Home Interactive, as the policy states that the games cannot be transferred back to a developer that's removed all of the games from the Focus style catalogue. Frogwares is the developer of the Sherlock Holmes series of video games and released the Lovecraftian adventure game called The Sinking City this year. Not played it yet, but looks very exciting. In an official statement, Frogwares explained that its games are being delisted from digital stores due to dispute with Focus Home Interactive. Focus Home Interactive was responsible for the release and licensing of a collection of Frogware's games as multi-platform titles. Although the two companies' publishing and distribution agreement has since ended, Focus Home Interactive will not return the title IDs of the developers' games to it. This refusal is in keeping with the policy that Focus communicated to Frogware last week. Focus has put in place a policy in accordance with which they will not transfer any title, the content ID or title ID belonging to any developer which has removed all of the games from the Focus catalogue. Frogwares claims that this policy was not included in its contracts with Focus Home Interactive, but because of it, the developers' games will be taken down from all storefronts. Frogwares is attempting to create new store profiles and liaising with console stores to return the games back to their platforms. We are unable to confirm that this can be done and already know that it will be impossible for certain games on previous generation, very costly for others, as we will have to be updating the SDK for that, and this will be taking months and months. Frogware's statement explained, "We are certainly not going to give up and will pursue this issue through the appropriate channels." Present Sherlock Holmes vs. Jack the Ripper has been removed from the Xbox 360 store. The Testament of Sherlock Holmes and Mark Runner Dark Pulse are gone from PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360. And Sherlock Holmes Crimes and Punishments is expected to disappear from Steam, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 on September the 29th. Well, maybe it's still going to be there on PlayStation Now services, I'm certainly hoping, because that is where I was going to be playing these games, and not happy about that, I have to say. That's really not very good news. Any of those disputes obviously are then experienced very heavily by customers and fans, and I've had two of these games on the top of my list. In fact, I wanted to play them after Vampire was indeed completed, and I'm still doing it at the moment, so they were literally at the top of my list for the next slot of PS Now games that were to be tried, and I need to double check after this broadcast whether these games are still there or not. If not, if these games are still there, maybe I will be able to download them. We'll have to see. Shivs will be swapped out for a Switchblade in The Last of Us Part 2. As expected, we are going to be getting a trickle of news coming out of Naughty Dog, and all of that will be related to the big sequel of The Last of Us, which is called Part 2. And the first one of that is already arriving here, and we are hearing that in the sequel we are not going to be able to use shivs in its apocalyptic weapons arsenal, and Ellie will use a switchblade to down enemies instead. We're getting this through BG247. The first game, the shambling yet deadly clickers could be killed if Joel wrapped together a pair of scissors and some material to make a shiv. Creeping up and stabbing that shiv in the neck of the infected enemy was the bread and butter of a stealthy sprint to the game, but the new game will not have any of those at all. Ellie's switchblade was just her signature to her character, so we actually were really challenged with how we are going to be making stealth against clickers challenging, while still allowing her to get stealth kills against them as if she had it. Co-game director Anthony Newman told BG247. Unlike Shiv's, Ellie's switchblade is unbreakable, so Naughty Dog needed to ramp up the challenge of a killing clicker. In The Last of Us, how fast Joel walked would not affect how loud his movements were, so long as he was crouched in stealth. Now Ellie will need to ever so slowly approach clickers to close in on them. You'll notice we are really emphasizing how slow you need to move, so he's going to be really stealthy. Clickers are a lot faster than they were in the original, so messing up is way more deadly. You really have to be practicing at half stick, which is a skill that's kind of difficult to pick up, Newman told us. It seems that the new game stresses that, although Ellie is skilled and survival hardened, she is not invincible, but players will learn and adapt to the world she traverses. One thing I'm really excited about is raising the skill ceiling of the game. So Newman added, so basically there is a lot of stuff where you may not even pick up on it in your first playthrough, but as you learn more and more about the game, difference between someone who's just playing the game for the first time and someone who really knows how the systems work. We really try to make the difference as big as possible, so there is always something new for you to experiment with. That's really good, because we want to see those introductions and novelties. Really cool. The Last of Us Part 2 will release on February 21st, 2020 for PlayStation 4, as we heard in the PlayStation presentation. Obviously, if you've not watched the presentation, you need to go to PlayStation YouTube channel, access the trailer, and obviously you will become then a lot more familiar with all that just to follow. So we have another lot of news related to Star Wars Jedi. As you could see, we have this wonderful screensaver in there, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, and the trailer shows the Rebel forces step into the light. The new Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order trailer is jam-packed with lightsaber duels, ancient relics, and massive boss battles, showing the Rebels are indeed back in business. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is like Sekiro in a galaxy far, far away. The gameplay reveal at E3 2019 showed off its mechanics and the complex combat that Cal will have to be grappling with. Respawn stated that it wants players to feel empowered, even without the power of the Force, and the new trailer flaunts just that. In the trailer called Cal's Mission, Cal Kestis is seen barely escaping from an encounter with a vindictive Sith Inquisitor. The second sister, Grease, and Sera Junda rescue him on the ship, and Seri says she is done hiding, revealing that she is another survivor of Order 66, wishing to rebuild the Jedi Order. To weaken their common enemy for a common cause, Cal will interact with ancient monuments and accompanied by his robo-companion, because it's dangerous to go it all alone. Cal will be facing off against gargantuan creatures like Golgara, the Chirodactyl, in his odyssey fighting back against the dreadful, evil Empire. While Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order will not see the return of Darth Vader or Palpatine as the big bad, the Imperial Stormtroopers and Purge Stormtroopers will be led by the Sith Inquisitors. The second sister certainly has a bone to pick with Cal, and the ninth sister appears to be holding him and is screwed hostage in one scene. The rest of the trailer shows off the swishy lightsaber combat, daring blues, and what Cal will undertake in his journey. Seems the Star Wars fans have a lot to look forward to in this new game. What we're very excited about Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, it does seem to be a step up from the recent installments, and I'm very excited about the gameplay, the story, and everything else. The battles looked formidable, the weapons used and the movements were massively enhanced, and we've seen in that E3 presentation that they will be able to throw back and forth the lightsaber, which is a novelty. I'm really quite excited about that. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is scheduled for release on November the 15th for PC, PS4 and Xbox One. And if you've not seen the trailer, which is called Cal's Mission, well, what are you waiting for? You need to go to Star Wars YouTube channel, access the trailer called Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order Cal's Mission trailer, and you will become a bit more familiar with all that is to follow. And that brings us to the end of the news for today. Hope you enjoyed our spread. All that was indeed selected from this massive abundance of news we get on the wires every single day. Presently, we are getting perhaps a bit more than usual in view of all of those forthcoming releases. We also had two major presentations this week on Inside Xbox and State of Play through PlayStation, and we are most thoroughly excited about the game, which you can see on your screen, Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, but most importantly also about Death Stranding and The Last of Us Part 2. So a lot to look forward to, I guess a lot to digest, and that's exactly what I'm going to be doing as I bring this broadcast to a close. I want to thank you all for coming and for listening. We are delivering our news in a somewhat different format today compared to what I've done in the past, and we are running separate news bulletins every single day. They're all related to the freshest coming to our desk, really, from all ends and all quarters, and we are selecting then what we assume to be of the greatest interest to our community members and viewers, and indeed wanting to make you indeed fully aware of the novelties and point you in the right direction, perhaps if you are deciding on what big AAA blockbuster to purchase, particularly if you are considering those that are costing $90+ and or maybe even some of the special editions like the ones we talked about earlier today. Ellie's edition of the Last of Us Part 2 is priced, I think, $250, but what you get together with it is rather formidable. So, providing you with your pointers and keeping you abreast with all the news is always going to be helping. So thank you for coming, thank you for watching, and on that note, I will wish you all a very, very good afternoon.